Sanje Juda Zoge Chonam Lo, Janju Bado Dani Nyazu Che, Dage Jinso Kebe Chona. Tola Benjir Sanje Dubale Jo, Sanje Juda Zoge Chonam Lo, Janju Bado Dani Nyazu Che, Dage Jinso Kebe Chonam Ye, Tola Benjir Sanje Dubale Jo, Sanje Juda Zoge Chonam Chanjo Balu Lane Yazuji, Dage Jinso Kebe Sonamgi, Dola Benjir Sanje Dubaresho. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, by my accumulations through the practice of giving and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, by my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations or practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Tathagato Hyavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Vati Mahashramana Yeswaha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Tathagato Hyavatat Tesham Chayo Nirodha Evam Vati Mahashramana Yeswaha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhavam Hetum Tesham Tathagato Hyavatat Tesham Evam Vati Mahashramana Yeswaha. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well is taught by the great seer. Deyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragade Parasamgade Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragade Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha. Okay, this morning I'm thinking of doing the what is known as the Satipatthana, the 4 mindfulnesses. There's actually a sutra known as Satipatthana Sutra, the sutra on the 4 mindfulnesses. Some people translate it as the 4 establishments into the mindfulness. Timbanya Varshapa. Yeah, so in Tibetan it is Timbanya Varshapa, establishing 4 establishments into the mindfulness, or to simply put, the 4 mindfulnesses. if we get a good picture of, good understanding of the Buddha's teachings, like Four Noble Truths, the Four Seals, and then the Satipatthana, the Four Mindfulnesses, we see that they are all overlapping to each other. And as the Four Seals, the Four Noble Truths, we see that the Four Seals are mostly related to the first aspect of the Four Noble Truths, first truth, the truth of the suffering. So there the Buddha taught each of the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha taught the 4 aspects each, making 16. 4 into 4, 16. The first, for the truth of suffering, the Buddha taught these 4 things. The 4 aspects to be impermanent, suffering, impure, and selfless nature. 4. And for what we call as the 4 seals. 4 seals. The Buddha, of course, to be very honest, some scholars, they debate that the Buddha, what the Buddha taught in the Theravada, the text is correct. And some say no, what the Buddha taught in the Mahayana text is correct. So both are correct. So look at His Holiness. So the Buddha was like His Holiness when he was alive in his days. It was His Holiness that Dalai Lama today on this earth. So he comes to France, he teaches something. He goes to India, he teaches something. So this is what he does. I remember so clearly that when teaching the dependent origination, the concept of dependent origination, His Holiness, initially he taught the 3 divisions of dependent origination. And later on, he would just summarize the 3 into 2. The dependent origination of causation and the dependent origination of the dependence on the mere mental designation. 2. And the same, so the 3 can be subsumed under the 2. That's as simple as that. So likewise, there's no contradiction. One teacher can teach the slight, in some cases more details, in some cases the shorter. And in my case, I remember now I can see that I'm becoming pretty good, or if not expert, that some I can teach very detailed, some very complex things I teach in simple lines. I don't know what extent the people get, but what I'm saying is that yes, there's a way by which you can teach something in detail, sometimes in the brief. This is what happens. So therefore, all these unnecessary disputes, all the conflicts, these are unnecessary. That in the Theravada, the canons of the Buddhist sutras, they talk about the 3 seals. 3 seals, and they talk about the 3 characteristics: impermanence, suffering, and the selflessness. The anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Anicca is impermanence, and dukkha is the suffering, and anatta, selflessness. That's it. Whereas in the context of the sutras in Sanskrit, we see that impermanence, dukkha, then the selflessness into 2, emptiness, selflessness 2, and then the transcendence of sorrow is nirvana. That's the 4th. So the 4th one, transcendence of sorrow is nirvana. This is like the resultant state. If you practice the first 3 well, then you will achieve the 4th one, the resultant state, transcendence of sorrow. There's one thing. And then with the selflessness, you find the mention of anatta, that's it, selflessness. Whereas in what is translated from Sanskrit, we see emptiness and selflessness. There are 2 there. And if you're interested, you bring this up during the question answer session. I'll be happy, because we have 3 sessions on this. You can bring this up during the question answer session. Same in what could be the difference between the emptiness and selflessness in this context. Okay, so whereas in the Theravada canons you just see anatta, that's it, selflessness. I do not really mention the word the shunyata. Shunya is not there. Okay. And whereas the four mindfulnesses, this is something which is common to the Theravada Buddhism and the Mahayana Buddhism. When I say Mahayana Buddhism, it is the Chinese Buddhism and the Tibetan Buddhism. And of course, there are other traditions also. For example, when I was in Vietnam, the Vietnamese, some of the teachers, they said that yes, Buddhism, some part of Buddhism came from China, some from India directly. So it becomes like a Vietnamese Buddhism as instead of Chinese Buddhism. So that's fine. That's fine. So the point is that His Holiness puts it so nicely, classified it very comprehensively, saying that the Buddhism in Pali language and Buddhism in Sanskrit language, or Pali Buddhist tradition and the Sanskrit Buddhist tradition. So that becomes very clean. So all those which came from Nalanda to China, Japan, then the Vietnam, Korea, and then in 7th century or 8th century in Tibet. So these all fall in the category of the Sanskrit Buddhist tradition, Sanskrit Buddhism. And whereas which went to Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and then nowadays even entering to Vietnam. So these came to be known as Theravada Buddhism, or the Pali Buddhist tradition, or Pali Buddhism. Okay. And you see that there are many sutras which are common between the two traditions. Of course, taught by the same teacher. For example, one of which is the Satipatthana Sutra, the four mindfulnesses, the practice of the four mindfulnesses. This is common to the two traditions. In Pali, it is Satipatthana. Satipatthana. The sati is like the four. Patthana is like the mindfulness. Okay, no, sorry. Sati is like the mindfulness. Patthana is like the establishment. Satipatthana Sutra, mindfulness based sutras. So this is common to Theravada tradition and the Sanskrit tradition, and then depend on the translations. Translators, it depends on the translators, the sources, and so forth. These are all later on written down, and what is written down and then translated, then the slight variations can happen here and there. Say, for example, Heart Sutra, which is accepted in the Mahayana Sutra, in the Mahayana tradition, Chinese and Tibetan tradition, we see that it went from Nalanda, the same source, originally taught by the Buddha, and same source, when translated into the Chinese and later into Tibetan, there's a slight variation there. And I think that sometimes even some of the teachers, later teachers, were very confident for the benefit of the audience, for the benefit of the disciples. Sometimes they tend to abridge. This is what I sensed. Because that the Heart Sutra, the ones I was in Malaysia where one center is there which follows the Chinese tradition. It has two versions of Heart Sutra in Chinese. The one which is very similar to the one that depends, and there's also a shorter one, very brief Heart Sutra. So from this we can see that sometimes even the teachers, some teachers of course, through their own experience, through their own come out of the knowledge, come out of the subject matter, therefore to suit the temperaments and the propensities of the audience, they may give the summary of this and put in form of a sutra. So I think these things are happening, the variations happening because of this. Okay, so our job is to know what these four mindfulnesses are, and we see this is primarily for as I said earlier, and if you study the Abhisamaya Alankara, Abhisamaya Alankara, ornament of clear realization by Maitreya. There, in the commentaries, you find that Satipatthana, the mindfulness, 4 mindfulnesses, they are explained on 2 levels. One, which is common to the 2 traditions, like for the personal liberation seekers and the Mahayana practitioners. Personal liberation seekers and the Mahayana practitioners, what is common to 2 of them. And the second version, which is exclusively for the Mahayana practitioners. Okay. And what I'm going to explain here is I'll try to do both. And the first one, which is common to those who seek personal liberation, and with the Mahayana practitioners who seek liberation for all beings. So that, then followed by what is explained exclusively for the Mahayana practitioners. And for that matter, the second part, you find this explained in Bodhisattva Shantideva's text, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. The second part, in less detail, in abbreviated form, you do find it explained. Just a quick explanation is given there in the commentaries of the Abhisamalankara, but the detailed explanation of unique presentation of the Satipatthana, the 4 mindfulnesses, according to the Mahayana tradition, is explained in Bodhisattva Shantideva's text, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, Chapter 9. Chapter 9. In fact, Chapter 9, which is the wisdom chapter on the emptiness, which His Holiness, I think, is still teaching in Ladakh. He soon started the teaching on this Chapter 9 just recently, 1 or 2 days ago. And there, on the explaining emptiness, how Bodhisattva Shantideva they explain emptiness, and how Acharya Chandragiri explain emptiness in Madhyamagavatar. So there, you see that the format is the same. That the emptiness, the Acharya Chandragiri said that the Dhamma didn't Nam Chöda Kansa Nam Yisung, which means that the meditation of the selflessness liberates the beings, liberates the sentient beings. And this selflessness, which is to be meditated upon, is classified into 2, the selfless of person and selfless of phenomena. So this is what Acharya Chandragiri said. And in the actual, the composition of the 2 selflessnesses, Acharya Chandragiri explained the selflessness of the phenomena first, followed by selflessness of person. Okay, how many of you are exposed to this concept of selflessness of phenomena, selflessness of person? Raise your hands. How many exposed? Okay, it seems so all. So let's keep this in mind. This is going to be a little digression, but very helpful. Persevere the miseries which we don't like. They are given rise to by the afflictions. That's for sure. And how do the afflictions arise? Afflictions arise in us in ways like afflictions arise in your dream. And how do the afflictions arise in the dream? The first thing that happens is that you go to sleep. And then you create your dream. This is how everything starts. You create your dream. Number 1. Number 2, you are unaware that you are creating a dream. Okay, how many agree with me that when I fall asleep, first we start to dream? How many agree with me? Good. Number 2, that we are unaware that we are dreaming. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Good. Because you are unaware that you are dreaming, you see it as real. How many agree with me? If you know that you are dreaming, you will not see it as real. Because you are unaware that you are dreaming, you see it as so real. Number 3. Because you see it so real, when it's undesirable, then you want to run away from it. When it's desirable, you want to go towards that, which means object affects you. This is number 4. Then, because the object affects you, you react. Number 5. You react. This is the karma. The moment you react, then everything happens. The miseries happen. Okay. So, everything happens where? In the dream. Say, you are a very kind person. In the dream, you meet, say, a poor person. You dream of a poor person. And you are unaware that it is dream. And because of that, you see this object real. And the poor person shows something of sadness, hunger, and so forth. And then you react. How you react? You go to help the person. Is it good or bad? Very good. Very good. So, what's the outcome? Outcome is that people around, they admire you. You also feel very happy. And then they say, okay, so let's say the outcome is very positive. Or this positive outcome is happening where? In the dream or outside the dream? In the dream, in dream samsara. You have created your own dream. You have created this world. Right? That is samsara. So, even this virtue that you dream, the results you experience within the dream, that is within samsara. So therefore, these virtues are known as contaminated virtues. Contaminated virtues. Okay. So with this, the Acharya Chandrakirti, when he was explaining about emptiness in Madhyamaka Avatar, he explained the substance. Okay, so I was trying to make this distinction. So there we see that they say, okay, this is something very positive. Something negative, let's say that you dream of somebody dear who for no reason blames you, insults you in public, in the dream. And then you react. You become angry in the first place. Initially you become angry, and then you react. So this anger to arise, do you agree with me that that person in the dream provoked you, insulted you in public? That is one factor. You agree with me or not? And then you are here as a person who received the insult. So the person, you are the person to experience this anger, experience the insult and so forth. You are the person there, and the other object there, with the object with respect to you, other person as an object with respect to you as an object who insulted you in person. So there should be the you as a person who experienced all this, the emotions, and the person who triggered these emotions there too. So you, the agent who goes through all these things, is the person, and the object with which you interact is known as the phenomena other than the person. So person and the phenomena too. Do you agree with me? Good. So how this anger arises is that you fail to see that person as a dream person. You see this person as real. Object is real. The phenomena is real. This is one problem. And the other problem is that you're actually in the bed. You're sleeping. But you see yourself as being in the public, attentively fighting with the person. That's also a dream. It's not real. You see the self as real. You see the phenomenon with which you interact is also as real. So you see the self as real. You agree? And you see the phenomenon with which you interact, other person insulting you, also as real. So you see that the person seen as real, and the phenomenon with which you interact is also seen as real too. So with this, then anger erupts, afflictions arise. So on the lower schools, so in this, they're bringing in many important aspects from different sections. You may get a little confused, but when it's the lower schools, keep it lower schools. Lower schools would say that no need to think about the emptiness of the phenomena. Just think of the emptiness of the self. Self and the phenomena with which you interact. Emptiness of the self. You see that the selflessness. You see the selflessness of the person.
result. Even if you see the object as whatever, object real, whatever, no issue, no sound. Sound of affliction, stop. Just see the selflessness of person. No need to see the selflessness of phenomena. This is what the lower schools talk about. So it's for this reason that according to lower schools, Vaibhashika, Sautrantika, these two schools, they only talk about the selflessness of person. They don't talk about the selflessness of phenomena. Whereas the Chittamantra and Madhyamaka school, I'm sure that most of you are already exposed to some philosophical discussions. If not, don't worry too much. When we switch to the Satipatthana, it's going to be... By the way, how many of you are exposed to these four schools? Vaibhashika, Sautrantika, Chittamantra, Madhyamaka, raise hands. Good. How many of you are not exposed to these four schools? Okay, Evelyn. Okay, so let's not worry about this too much. The idea is that the selflessness, when afflictions arise, how they arise is by there should be two factors involved. What is the agent, the self, I. He's insulting me. He's abusing me. There should be I. And what triggered this person to feel agitated? The object, the person. Or you may blame the weather. You may blame the system. You may blame this, that, and so forth. The object. That object is known as the phenomena other than the person. So, in other words, in simple terms, we have seeing the person as real and seeing the phenomena with which the person interacts as real. So, high schools, they say that yes, you have to see that this is also not real, the person is not real, and the phenomenon is not real. Then there's no basis left for you for the afflictions to arise. So for the afflictions to arise, these two should come together. Both are dissolved, there's nothing to come together. So the afflictions don't arise. Okay, so for this, you need to know that the self is not real, the person is not real. For this, the concept of the selflessness of person is taught. Likewise, the selflessness of phenomena with which you interact, that is also not real. To understand this, the selflessness of person is taught. So the selflessness, when the Buddha taught, everything's nature of the selflessness. So that this selflessness, Acharya Chandrakirti said that is of two divisions, selflessness of person, selflessness of phenomena. And Acharya Chandrakirti explained the selflessness of phenomena first, followed by the selflessness of person. But as Bodhisattva Shantideva in his text, selflessness of person is taught first, followed by selflessness of phenomena. So the sequence simply differs. And explaining the selflessness of phenomena, Acharya Chandrakirti, they explain the selflessness of phenomena on the basis of what Arya Nagarjuna taught. Arya Nagarjuna, the first Mula Madhyamaka Karika, fundamental wisdom of the middle way. So there in the first chapter, the opening of the first chapter, Arya Nagarjuna wrote just a synopsis. The synopsis of the whole thing. The synopsis of the whole Mula Madhyamaka Karika. So in it, he says that it says, I don't know if you have this, it doesn't matter, I'll just read it for you. If you have the English book, it's page 113. Page 113, the summary of everything's here. It reads, neither from the self, nor from another, nor from both, nor without a cause. Anything, does anything whatsoever, anywhere, ever arise. Okay, so this is what Arya Nagarjuna taught as a summary of the Mula Madhyamaka Karika. And Acharya Chandrakirti explained the selflessness of phenomena on the basis of this understanding, this verse. Whereas Acharya Bodhisattva Shantideva, to explain the selflessness of phenomena, he explained the Satipatthana, the four mindfulnesses, on the basis of the four mindfulnesses. It's not that they differ in explanation. No. They are explaining the same thing, but in different ways by using different sources. So, Bodhisattva Shantideva explained the four mindfulnesses to explain the substances of substance of phenomena. And the substance of person, both of them explanation is much more the same. How Acharya Chandagiri explains, how Bodhisattva Shantideva explains, and seems like in terms of date, the two of them seems Acharya Chandagiri seems to be like 100 years before Bodhisattva Shantideva. Acharya Chandagiri was in like 7th century AD, and Bodhisattva Shantideva was in like 8th century AD. A difference of like 100 years, maybe 60, 70 or 100 years. Okay. So with this, finally what I'm saying is that if you read, particularly His Holiness the Dalai nowadays gives teaching on the wisdom chapter of Bodhisattva Shantideva's text, chapter 9, once in a while. So there we need to know what is contained there in chapter 9. In chapter 9, the substance of the person is taught on the basis of this, mainly on the basis of 6 elements. How the self is empty by dependence, due to being dependent on the 6 elements. And then substance of person, the substance of phenomena, he taught later on the basis of the 4 mindfulnesses. Okay, so that 4 mindfulnesses which Bodhisattva Shantideva explains, it is purely on the basis of the unique presentation of the Satipatthana, unique presentation of the mindfulness, the 4 mindfulnesses presented by the Mahayana practitioners. Or in other words, unique presentation of the mindfulness practices by the higher Buddhist schools, or Chittamatra and Madhyamikas. Okay, so first we will do the explanation of 4 mindfulnesses on the basis of how both the systems, personal liberation seekers and the Mahayana practitioners, the Buddhist systems explain in common. Okay, this is what we're going to do here. And later on, feel free to, nowadays it's very easy to get these texts. Just Google search Satipatthana Sutra, 4 mindfulness, all the sutra will come. It's very easy now. And both are there, one in the body system and the other one in the Sanskrit system. Both will be available there. Okay. Now, this is what is common to the 2 systems is primarily to cultivate the renunciation. And what is unique for the mind practitioners is for the bodhicitta, is for related to the bodhicitta practice. Okay. First, to speak about the 4 mindfulnesses. The mindfulness. Today we see that there's a lot of the trainings given, programs are there on mindfulness. They become so popular, mindfulness-based stress reduction and so forth. They're good, but they're all somehow based on these sources. These sources, sometimes there's a problem. In fact, there's one lady teacher, the lady professor in psychology. She did her PhD in psychology, Western psychology, and later she started to teach Buddhist psychology, because she said that she told me directly that what she learned from the Western psychology, when she applies this clinically, it doesn't really have much impact on the audience. But it's when she teaches the Buddhist psychology, she applies Buddhist psychology in a clinical, the procedures is extremely beneficial. The clients, are immediately benefited. So she realized that the Buddhist psychology is so precious, and she learned it herself, and then she is now teaching this to the people, and it's very popular. Okay. And from this we see that the the mindfulness. And this lady professor, she feels that once you use a source, like you teach mindfulness on the basis of some Buddhist source, you have to be extremely, you should be very sincere and give the credit to the source. Nowadays, many people, they don't give the credit. They use the source from the Buddhist sources, they learn it, and then they modify it, they package it in their own version, and then give it to people as though it's coming from him or herself. This is very sad. So she totally disagrees with this. Whenever she teaches anything related to psychology, she gives the credit to the Buddhist sources, whichever she extracts. And this is something so unique. Otherwise, nowadays, the mindfulness practice has become so popular, and people think that this is all coming from the West. It's not coming from the West. It's all, and these people, even those teachers who, they talk about mindfulness-based stress reduction and so forth. If you track where they learned, they all learned from most of them learned from the Tibetan masters. And they don't give credit to the teachers. This is very unfortunate, very unfortunate. Okay, so the 4 mindfulnesses. What are they? Number 1, the mindful. At least we have to enumerate what they are. And number 1, what they are. Number 2, what are the unique characteristics. Then number 3, how do we apply this? Then number 4, how do we see these in relation to the other teachings like 4 seals, 4 noble truths, and the 12 links of dependent origination, the wheel of life, and so forth. So it is all connected, they overlap, and they among each other. Okay, what are the 4 mindfulnesses? Number 1, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the feeling, mindfulness of the mind, mindfulness of the phenomena. Body, feeling, mind, phenomena. Okay, mindfulness of these 4 things. So when you say that mindfulness of the body, what should we be thinking? Just think of the body, or what? So then, these 4 things are the objects. For example, say they usually say what we learned of the truth of the cause of suffering. The 3 sufferings. What are they?
Suffering of changes, all purpose of suffering.
Suffering change, and pervasive condition suffering. All pervasive condition suffering. Pervasive condition suffering is fine. Okay. What is suffering change?
Debate.
Don't expect me to ask you what is suffering. It's very easy. What is suffering change? Anybody? Yes, Thomas.
It's 2 things.
Sorry?
It's 2 things. Two aspects. It has 2 aspects. Debate. We think it's a pure happiness, and we go. So we are trapped. And it's pleasure, which transforms glory in suffering.
Okay. Thank you. First, my question is, what is suffering change? And then I will ask you, how is it suffering? How is it change? So how you explained so beautifully of these 2 attributes. How is suffering? How is it? Then why it is referred to as change? The first question is, give me examples. Or what do you mean by suffering change? What is suffering change?
Any mundane happiness.
Any mundane happiness. To make it very precise. Very precise. Any mundane happiness. Okay. Any mundane happiness. Now the next question is, okay, are you sure any mundane happiness is suffering change? Yes. So for that, you have to know 2 things. People can ask you, how can you say happiness is suffering? You say mundane happiness. After all, it says happiness. If it is happiness, how can it be suffering? Then you have to explain. Then Thomas will explain, right? How is it suffering, Thomas?
I have to repeat it.
Huh?
I have to repeat.
Oh, yes, of course. So you repeat your breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Every day you repeat your breakfast.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay, so
It's a bait because we think it's a bait. We go and we are trapped.
so what you can say is that it's suffering because it is a bait. It is suffering because it is a bait. And then the person will ask what next question the person can ask?
What kind of bait?
How is it a bait? Right? No, people know what is a bait. Right? They will not ask what is bait. Right? They will ask, how is it a bait? How is suffering of change the bait? Anybody? Anyone? How is suffering a change? How is the mundane happiness a bait? When you say bait, of course, when you say something is bait, it is not desirable, it is undesirable, it is suffering. But how is mundane suffering, mundane happiness bait? Anyone?
It makes you want to stay in samsara instead of going out of it.
Okay, it traps you in samsara. So the words are very powerful. It wants to stay in samsara, right? It wants to make you to stay in nirvana. This is not a bait, right? It makes you stay in Buddhahood. It's not a bait, but it makes you stay in samsara. We'll not say we are trapped in Buddhahood. So this word is very powerful. We are trapped in samsara. Yes, it makes sense. We are trapped in Buddhahood. No, it doesn't make sense. Right? It's so meaningful to be in Buddhahood, but we are trapped in samsara. So what the Venerable is saying is that we are trapped. This is a bait because this is the one. What is it? Bait. Bait is to trap the fish. What do you call it? Fishing line. So these are used to catch the fish. So it traps us in samsara. Okay, so good. Then why is it known as change? Why it is referred to as the change, suffering change? Anyone? Raise hands. Yes, Evelyn.
Because those bad happiness are not permanent.
Change, ils changent.
They are
Et
transforming,
nous les considérons, on les voit comme permanents.
and we consider them as permanent.
Yes, we see them as permanent, but in actuality they are not permanent, they change. They change too? No, they don't really change the suffering, they're always suffering themselves.
Suffering is
They change the suffering of suffering. The suffering changes into suffering of suffering. Right? Okay. So the Evelyn, your understanding is perfect. The only thing is that the wordings. So the mundane experience, they are known as suffering change. The word change is referred to with the word change because it changes into word suffering changes into suffering of suffering. Are you good?
because, as you said, in the three first form rim, the suffering of change. It seems this one doesn't change into suffering of suffering. Also, here the word change, suffering of change.
Wonderful, this is amazing. Okay, you have to listen to this. What we said is that suffering exists in desire realm. Suffering change exists in desire realm plus the first three form realms. And suffering which means that suffering doesn't exist in the formless realm. And suffering change does not exist in the fourth form realm and all the formless realms. So the question is that the suffering of change that exists in the three form realms, they don't really change into suffering because they don't have suffering. Okay, is there anybody who likes to give answer to this? This is a good question. Tommy, will try.
Perhaps it's suffering of change. It's changing, is suffering, in suffering of suffering in these realms too, but not in the life when the karma is happening. It's in the next life, next incarnation.
Okay. It makes sense. It makes sense, but again, this is something we have to prove, right? It makes sense if it is a reality that although you may not see the changes into suffering in this very life, it can change. It can bring to that effect in the next lives when you take birth in the desire realm. That's what I'm saying. If it is true, then it makes sense. There's a logical consistency there, but whether it is true or not, this question. Okay, anyone else who likes to give answer to this? This is a good question. No one? Okay. And Sophie, will give?
I was quite agree with Thomas. I was thinking about the end of from when, just being on when you might be reborn to the Zion. So after having no suffering or suffering, you have suffering or suffering.
Okay. So for this, what I said is that if it is true, then it makes logical consistency there, it changes. But how do we know that it is true? This is the question. Let me give you, these are the things that we need to keep, these are the nuances. These are nuances. Let's say that contaminated karmas. What's the job of the contaminated karmas? These are the cause of the suffering. How many agree with me? Good. So contaminated karmas means their job is to give suffering. But there are many contaminated karmas which will not give rise to suffering. Can you imagine something? For example, say each one of us, when we, let's say somebody attains nirvana today, you still have many contaminated karmas. Great deal of contaminated karmas are purified, but still you have many contaminated karmas. Afflictions are gone, no afflictions left. Afflictions are cut, they are totally gone when you become arhat. But you still have the contaminated karmas. And these contaminated karmas, for example, like contaminated karmas to throw you into, say we have enormous, infinite number of contaminated karmas to throw us into the hell realm, hungry ghost realm, animal realm, human realm, so forth. These karmas are there. And to throw us into the formless realm also. There are so many karmas, positive karmas, negative karmas are there. They are there. So, because you already attained nirvana, now you will not take birth in samsara anymore. So this karma will not throw you at all in samsara anymore. So the thing is that provided all the other factors are intact, they will throw you into samsara. Provided all other factors are intact. So this, for example, say the karma to throw the person into human realm. So that karma is there. It's a virtuous karma. It is there. And because that the person already cut the afflictions. So the 12 links of dependent origination, we need number 8, number 9. Number 8, number 9, these to affliction, these to attachment and grasping, craving and grasping. The wheel of life, it is there. Okay, if you have this book, okay. it is on page 318. Page 318. And those who have it, you can just share with other people. Okay, it's just will of the will of life. It is the will of life. So then, number 8 is at the outermost circle. Outermost circle. In the outermost circle, number 8, we see an alcoholic, a person who is grabbing at the alcohol. That is craving. And number 9, a monkey grasping at the fruit. Grasping. 8 and 9. These two are afflictions. We require afflictions to take birth in samsara. So since the arhats, they already cut the afflictions. Although they have the karmas, this karma will not throw them into samsara. In other words, do you get the point? That although this karma have the potential to give rise to the suffering, but this karma should meet with the water of the afflictions. When the water is not there, even the seed is there, seed will not give rise to the results. Right? Even in the common sense, in the ordinary sense, like apple seeds. So here what do we grow? Orange? Oranges? Apples? Oh, huh? No, here around this place. Cherry. Apple, let's say cherry. Cherry grows? Okay, let's say cherry. Cherry and apricots. So if the cherry and apricot seeds are left on my table, no matter what you do, they will not grow. Although they have the potential to give rise to cherry trees, apple trees, but they will never grow if they don't meet with the conducive factors. So provided the conducive factors are there, then these seeds will give rise to the apple trees, cherry trees, and so forth. Likewise, say this in the form realm, the suffering change. Provided the conditions are there, the person can experience suffering, then this can change into suffering change. Because these factors are missing, although it has a potential to give rise to suffering, but it doesn't give. It is like this one, the karmas for the arhats. They have the karma to project them into samsara, but they don't reap the result because other factors are cut. You getting it?
So Geshe, that means it's a bit different situation because with the sense pleasure, for example, if I eat a cake, just by repeating this action, we turn suffering and suffering. But here on the form ring, because from concentration, then no matter how much we concentrate, it doesn't do this. The happiness doesn't diminish, isn't it?
Very good.
So that's why for me, I was always surprised this is considered as suffering of change because I know the teachings say that. So
okay, don't worry. The question that you might have, don't suppress. And oftentimes, these explorations can be a continuous journey. You're getting it? So, for example, say in my case, all these last more than 30 years. So, formally, joining into Buddhist studies, becoming a monk. So, it's been like 30 years. Before that, also, we were exposed to all these concepts, right? So, it's an ongoing journey. It'll become more and more refined. Only thing is that you keep forwarding these questions, right? And another thing is that let's say that the people, so what Vincent was saying is that when you into the samadhi, there are so many other factors involved. Other factors to see the demerits of the suffering, demerits of the desire for the sensual objects. But in fact, it's so much of training. With this, they finally get into the samadhi. So, going to the samadhi, after a while, again the afflictions of desire arise. Of course, they have to take birth in lower realm.
After the form rim.
No. So the point is that the power of this samadhi is not. So let's say that there's no actually clear cut between what is suffering change and the suffering. The border is like from pure yellow to green. There's a great similarity there. Yellow to green, right? Pure yellow, pure green, and some way it becomes greenish yellow, right? So likewise, what I'm saying is that the more, if somebody is just engrossed with this, the bliss of the samadhi, if you keep engrossed in this, then it hampers your samadhi. Hampers meaning it diminishes your samadhi. Because of this, that the power of the samadhi diminishes, and then they take birth in the lower realms. You getting it? So the thing is that, there are two things. One is the samadhi and one is the bliss of the samadhi. There are two things. Samadhi per se is not the suffering change. The bliss of the samadhi is the suffering change. So when you engross with the bliss of samadhi, then it will diminish your samadhi.
Okay.
And because of this, once the samadhi is gone, then you have no entitlement to take birth in the higher realm. You'll go into lower. When going to lower afflictions arise. In simple terms, so being engrossed with the subtler, the bliss, it can suck you in deeper into, say, on the top, beautiful fish are there in the ocean. In the bottom, the crocodiles are there. So you are attached to a small fish, then you are sucked deeper, then go into the whales and the crocodiles. Good. Okay. Yes.
What can destroy the grain, the seeds of? Because you say Arhats, they cut affliction, but they didn't cut the seed. They didn't burn the seed.
Okay. Thomas, don't leave the center till you get this answer correctly. Because you will say the Arhats, they don't destroy the seed, right? Who taught you this? Geshe Damdul taught us, right? Okay, so you feel so proud of Geshe Damdul. And the people, the learned people, they will not feel proud. Oh, I thought he's good. He's not good. He's terrible. He taught such a wrong thing to Thomas. So, okay, it is not the seeds in general, and the Arhats abandoned, destroyed the afflictions and their seeds. What they've not abandoned is the contaminated karmas. For example, let's say virtuous contaminated karmas to take birth in the human realm, in the higher realm, and so forth. These karmas are not, and also they have the imprint seeds of the negative karmas also, Arhats, which they do not do now, which they did in the past. The seeds are still there. For example, Arhats, they go through headache, they have severe health issues, problems are there. So these problems are all the results of negative karmas. The seeds of negative karmas are still there in the Arhats. So your question is, how do they destroy the negative seeds, the seeds of the karmas, seeds of the contaminated karmas? How do they destroy the seeds? How can one destroy them? So this is a question, not the seeds in general. Seeds of afflictions are destroyed, but seeds of the karmas are not destroyed. So how do we destroy this? This is the very serious question. Okay. Let me tell you. Say, if you are in clothes, of course we're in clothes, and the clothes you've been wearing you have been using these clothes for the last 20 years. They worn out. They run out, but you keep them so clean, you wash them so clean, you put them wearing. After about 20 years, it's all worn out, right? So the worn out means that some holes coming here, from here, here, right? Okay, so these are problems. So how do you get rid of this problem? Anyone? Huh? Yes, remove this and put a new one. You're getting it? So the seeds of the karmas, they're like, okay, so let's say this thermos, I think maybe this is steel. This is steel. Have you ever seen, I don't think many of you have seen that. How many have seen such a, like a thermos or the steel, metallic, and so at the base it has become like a momo. Right? How many have seen that? This is not momos, this is very fine, very, I can say this is fresh new, that is fresh new. How many have seen the base of the containers, metallic containers like momos? Have you seen that? It's very rare though nowadays, people throw right away, right? Huh? How many you have? You might have one or two of them with you. You have?
Not me, but my mom turned down. She had it for like 20 years. It's like all.
Yes. Okay. So what's the best thing to do? Throw this and get a new one, right? So what is karma? Karma is the action. So what action? For example, you hit this, right? This action. So this action, how do you see that something happened? Happened meaning action. How do you see the dent? You're getting it? Through the dent, you see that there's some action happened. So our mind is like this container, and our mind has become like momos. Right? It's full of dents. Karma. It's full of dents. Worse than this person's mug. Full of dents. So what do? So we see that the one thing is just remove it. Same within the Juzmilarpa. How many heard about Juzmilarpa stories hence? Okay, Juzmilarpa, he had the container in which he boils his nettle. Yes. Nettle. Thank you. Boils his nettle soup. And then what happens as he makes this? Then what happens is that some stains, the remnants of the nettle is gradually formed and it becomes hardened. They call it what? Calcification. It hardens, and then one time what happened was that this container is made of mud, and suddenly it rolled down and it hit a rock and it broke. This is the only possession that he had. It broke and a smaller pot came from inside. Smaller pot came from inside. The outer one broke, the small one came out of this. So likewise, say the samsaric, say the stains. So when you leave the samsara, what is samsara? That we take birth by the force of the contaminant karmas and afflictions. That is samsara. So when you remove the afflictions altogether, then the only stains are only the inactive, the karmic seeds are left there in the form of this calcification. So when you leave the samsara, so that is removed. That's left out. That is how all the contaminant karmas are left behind. There's of course there are ways and means to purify the contaminant karmas, particularly the negative karmas, but how to get rid of all is by just cutting the afflictions altogether, and then leaving this samsaric remnants. You leave it, then everything with samsara is left behind. So that is how the contaminant karmas are left behind or eradicated. Yeah.
That means when they die.
Okay, when does this happen? When does it happen? In the case of the personal liberation seekers, Shervakas and Predika Buddhas, when they die. What we call is death, but for them this is liberation. Yeah, in fact, for them, it is like you're being trapped in a prison. Your body is like a prison for them. So they leave this body, they're freed. Yeah. This is known as the nirvana without remainder. So you attain nirvana and you still have a physical body. This is the nirvana with remainder, with the samsaric remainder. This body is samsaric remainder from your parents, which is contaminated, which is prone to sickness, aging, death, hunger, thirst, and so forth. When you leave this, you attain nirvana without remainder. Good. Okay. So the first one is the mindfulness of the body. And the mindfulness of the body, what is number 2? Mindfulness of feeling, mindfulness of mind, mindfulness of phenomena. 4. So these are the 4 objects. 4 objects of the mindfulness. And next is the same, just the body per se is not a problem. When you see the impure body as a pure, that's a problem. So in other words, we are looking at the characteristics. So misconception of the body to be pure, that misconception is eradicated by introducing the valid conception of the body to be impure. So the first mindfulness says the mindfulness of the body to be impure. The number 2 is the mindfulness of the feeling to be of suffering nature. Feeling, we see that there are 3 kinds of suffering, 3 kinds of feeling. Pleasant feeling, the unpleasant feeling, which is suffering. Pleasant feeling, which is suffering change. And the neutral feeling, which is ignorance. Which falls in the category of pervasive conditioned suffering. So we see that these 3 contaminated feelings, when we experience the happiness, contaminated happiness, we see this happiness. In actuality, this is suffering change. So likewise, okay. So mainly this the second one. So seeing the feelings as of suffering nature. Seeing the feelings as suffering nature, whereas we see the feelings, particularly the suffering change, as happiness nature. So, misconceiving suffering as happiness, you rectify this by seeing the feelings as unpleasant, feelings as the suffering nature. Tell me what is number 3. The mindfulness of the mind. Mindfulness of mind to be impermanent. Mindfulness of the mind to be impermanent. Then finally, the mindfulness of the phenomena as selfless nature. So from this we can see that this has a great bearing on the 4 seals or the first of the Four Noble Truths. Say the first one talks about impurity. Second one is the suffering nature, dukkha. The third one is the impermanent, anicca. And the fourth one is selflessness, anatta. Okay, we see again. So the first one is impurities. And the second one is suffering nature. Third one is impermanence. Fourth one is selflessness. With body to be impure, feeling to be unpleasant or suffering, and the mind to be impermanent, and the phenomenon is selfless nature. The 4. Okay, and His Holiness, His Holiness, I think since many years ago, but oftentimes in his public address, he would cite the the monasteries, some of the monasteries in Thailand, when he first visited, most likely in the 1960s, where you could see the dead bodies are kept there in some the chambers, and then from outside through a window you can see what is inside. The dead body, which is just a fresh dead body 1 week, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and so forth. Yeah. And you look at it, you can see that this is my body, how my body will also go through this process. So this body has this nature to go through this process. The more we see this, the more we visually see this, it will leave a great impact in the mind to see that this is the true nature. I should not be, this body is not at all pure, it's so impure. So this is what his Holiness really appreciates, admires, that this is how people actually meditate then on the Thailand. Okay, this is the impure nature. Then second one is that the feeling is suffering nature. Feeling suffering nature. So that we dealt in great detail. 3 kinds of suffering. The feelings, how many feelings are there? 3 kinds are there. What are they? Pleasant, unpleasant. Okay, with unpleasant, what kind of suffering is it? Suffering. Pleasant feeling? We call it contaminated pleasant feeling or mundane pleasant feeling. That is suffering change. And what is the third one? Neutral feeling. Neutral feeling. That too we call it contaminated neutral feeling. We can call it contaminated neutral feeling. Contaminated neutral feeling is always pervasive, conditioned, suffering. Why pervasive? Contaminated neutral feeling pervades in all 3 realms. All 3 realms. And because it is contaminated, it is affected by ignorance. So the ignorance subsides. That is the pervasive conditioned suffering. Good? Okay. Then the next one is the mind. The mind as impermanent. Okay. Mind as impermanent. How many of you have actually thought about that the mind is changing? The mind is momentary. The mind is impermanent. Raise hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good, very good. Okay. And so this is, if you can think about not only the mind, any other composite phenomena as impermanent. So this will, it says that this will help us to understand the emptiness. This helps us to understand the lack of the solidity, lack of the self-nature. And because when you see that it's changing, say how the hour changes, and you may feel that there's something there which lasts 1 hour. No. What we see is lasting for 1 hour, even that changes minute by minute. Again, you may feel that something's there on a middle level. No, even that is also changing from second to second. You go like this, gradually you get a feeling that there's nothing there really there from the object to be identified as that object. Although you are thinking of impermanence, this will lead us to this understanding that there's nothing really from the object. Okay, this is quite scary though. Quite scary, and particularly you may feel as though like there's nothing to be hold on to say that this is it. It can be scary, and particularly you feel a little lost, like somebody thrown in the ocean. You have nothing to hold on to. Then you see that okay, you are totally helpless, nowhere to grab onto. So this feeling can come to you. If it does come to you, and if it's not too overwhelming, it's good. Continue with this, continue the practice, and then think about on the conventional level how things operate, how things function on the conventional level, right? Okay, whether they're real, no real, it doesn't matter. But if you eat food, your hunger dissolves. If you don't eat food, nothing happens. Your hunger continues. So this is, the functionality has to be thought of if you feel it little disturbing to you. And if it is overly disturbing to you, overwhelming, then you can stop the meditation for some time and meet with a teacher or a friend who can actually help you in this regard. This is very important. Nowadays, it's very easy. For example, in Paris, we have Geshe Damdul is there. And then nowadays, you can communicate with people so easily. Yeah. So you must seek the help. If it's overwhelmingly scary, right? If it's really disturbing, you must seek the help of. But by reflecting like this, if I'm not too presumptuous, out of 1 million, maybe 10 people have this feeling. I don't think you are one of the 10 people out of million, right? Don't worry too much. If you're a little scared, but I did come across somebody who said it's overwhelmingly scary, and the person is very genuine. I know the person is so genuine, and she reported that, and I said, just stop the meditation for some time. Yeah, okay. But otherwise, if you feel a little lost or a little disturbed, it's fine. It's fine. This is actually shaking your, the self-grasping ignorance. Also, self-centered attitude is shaken. Self-centered attitude is so grounded. Our self-centered is the gross one. Gross one is so grounded on the belief that something intrinsic is there that is shaken. And also a belief in the impermanent phenomenon is permanent. That is also shaken. It's good. That uneasy feeling comes to you. But if overwhelming, don't have to go through this. Just stop the meditation and consult your teachers or friends. Okay, good. Then the next one is the phenomena as selfless nature. So this is about emptiness. And if you're going to be with this group till the end of the class, which is 8.
Yes, 8 morning.
8 morning. And then we will go in more detail. What is selflessness? What is emptiness? That we have to do. That is a part of this Mahamudra. Okay, that will do. Okay, now before I touch the next point, which is how these are connected. One, connected to the first mindfulness of body is impure, connected to the mindfulness of the feeling as suffering nature, mindfulness of mind as impermanent, mindfulness of the phenomena as selfless nature. Linking these four, I'll do it in the next session. Any questions? We have 13 minutes more. Any questions from what we did since day 1 till today?
We had a question during the one group, and Sophie had one. Is it really necessarily that Bodhisattva has to realize emptiness before entering the path?
So whose question is this?
It was the question that we had during the group.
No, who asked? And Sophie? You keep it low. Don't bring yourself. Okay, I'm joking. Yes, what's the question?
Is it absolutely necessary that the Bodhisattva has to realize emptiness before entering the path?
For me, it's yes. So we were not agreeing. We disagree.
Okay, I know why you disagree. Because one is following the Nalanda monastery tradition, others following the Nalanda master's course Tibet house. That's the difference. Okay. So basically, first, my very open standpoint, but many of the teachers will be very unhappy with this. My thinking is, it doesn't matter. Practice emptiness, practice bodhicitta, right? And then say, when you feel this, even without realizing emptiness, when you feel that, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all demon sentient beings, when it becomes so natural, your mind flows, your tears flowing, it becomes very stable, and then wholehearted you feel it. Even without any effort, you could feel that I should become Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. Perfect, this bodhicitta, you become bodhisattva without realizing emptiness. Whereas for some people, oh, may I become Buddha? What do you mean by Buddha? If you don't know Buddha, how would you feel that may I become Buddha? Buddha is to be experienced in the form of emptiness. Emptiness. Without knowing what a Buddha is, how can you... Okay. So, for these people, yes, emptiness should be realized before the bodhicitta, because you are not convinced what the Buddhahood is till the emptiness is explained. Whereas for some people, Buddha is fine. You can benefit all sentient beings. That's very possible, right? Even without having understanding emptiness, still the person can have that feeling. So for them, it's fine. They can generate this feeling. Yeah, it's not necessary that. But the point is that finally, my open answer to this question would be that it doesn't matter. Practice bodhicitta, practice wisdom emptiness. Right? Let something happen to you. Right? Without saying, first let me decide. Will happen first. Only then I'll practice. Then your white hairs will keep increasing. And then there's no decisive conclusion. Because it's all experiential. Right? And then experiential, some people experience one thing, another person experiences another thing. Yeah? So, this is one thing. Now, the standard answer. Bodhisattva Shandurakshita, Acharya Shandurakshita, Bodhisattva Shandurakshita, who came to Tibet, who was a brilliant Madhyamika philosopher and also a logician. And in his text, the ornament of the Madhyamikas, so there he very clearly explained that there are bodhisattvas who realized emptiness first and then generated bodhicitta. There are bodhisattvas who first generated bodhicitta, then went in search of emptiness. This is very clearly indicated by Bodhisattva Shandurakshita. This is one part. This is a textual source. Then we see that, let's say that if you look at this from Acharya Dignaka's text, which we read every morning. Okay. So here, the page in English, page 5, verse number 2. The one who has transformed. If you look at this, the one who has transformed into the reliable guide, motivated by altruism. So here, you look at it, you see that compassion, the bodhicitta is first, followed by the wisdom of emptiness. Same, how the Buddha Shakyamuni, he pursued through his journey. First, in the palace, he was motivated by great compassion to benefit all the beings. So this bodhicitta moved him to leave the palace in search of the path to teach. What is the path to teach? The wisdom of emptiness. So motivated by bodhicitta, already he has this bodhicitta spirit, and then drove him in search of the wisdom. So the wisdom came later, but the bodhicitta first. So this is what at least it's a source here, right? So, but I personally would basically practice both. It doesn't matter. You have to practice. But sometimes we get too stuck with these things and you don't practice. Always thinking. You have a free time after 10:30. You have free time. Which comes first? And you don't practice. No bodhicitta, no wisdom of emptiness. Which comes first? He said, no, I don't agree with this. Right? But I have this source. And then oh, bodhicitta. But he said like this. No. That's not meaningless. Practice bodhicitta. Practice his emptiness. Let something happen to you. And you should decide which will come first. Right? You don't look for somebody else. You decide. Practice it. Yeah. Okay. More questions? Yes.
Justement sur la
bodhicitta, on a vu comment s'entraîner. Est-ce qu'il y a des signes qui montrent qu'on progresse? Comment on sait qu'on l'a réalisé? Et est-ce qu'il y a des faux signes? C'est-à-dire, est-ce qu'on peut croire qu'on a progressé alors
about bodhicitta. So we try to train. How do we know that we have it, or do we have some signs or some fake signs? How do we know that we have it?
Okay, this is a good question. Thank you. One thing I would really share with you that now I'm 55. All these many years, from this what little I can share with you is that for example, reading these materials. When you read, there are two ways of reading this. This morning I shared with you. And we are totally unaware. We are thinking that we are doing the sadhanas, we are doing the practice. But when you're tired, your mind, simply your words flow, but the meanings do not flow. So this is when your bodhicitta will take so much time for you to experience bodhicitta. It'll take long time. And for us to actually experience bodhicitta, we never know. When it may take 1 life, it may take 10 lives, we never know. But we have to, say the sound. We have to create a sound ground. Create a sound ground, and then let it flow like a rocket. Let it flow, and make sure that the target and there's no obstacles coming in the way. If the obstacles do not come in the way, that this rocket takes a U-turn. If that doesn't happen, if you're very guaranteed that it goes straight, then it's fine. Even if it takes like 5 lifetimes, 10 lifetimes, it's fine. It'll keep going. In the process, you will realize that your mind is expanding. Then you will realize your mind is expanding. That is important. Your mind keeps expanding. Say, for example, one time, that's very interesting. I'd just like to share with you. That was many years ago when I did my personal retreat, and just on bodhicitta. And then they're coming out, and then I saw a poor vendor with the whole basket of fruits, whatever. But he was carrying this, and finally he put it down. Somebody helped him because he was carrying this and the stand both, and the passenger helped him to put down the stand of this basket, and then he put it down. And my thought was just flowing very naturally. I was not at all deliberately think of anything. I was just observing this person, and my thought was just flowing. And it just flowed to an extent that how I wish that the more people come to buy his fruits. That came to my mind very naturally. And suddenly, like waking up from the sleep, this thought flowed. I was so happy. This is a very natural thought process of compassion. I was so happy. And then one day, I shared this with some of my friends, particularly people who are, who want enlightenment right now. Right? But the Geshe is not experiencing, I practice the wisdom of emptiness, the last 1 week, experience is not coming to me. Right? So to these people, I share this experience. And there's particularly this one lady, who is so impatient, who wants enlightenment right now. And then I shared this experience. And she stopped for a while and she said, wow, that's amazing. If we were to sit for a retreat the way Geshe, you said, we would expect enlightenment right now. But for you, just to see that this positive thought came to you naturally, this is what you consider as a great success. Okay, this should be an approach. The point is that where your mind doesn't flow naturally towards, say, may you have the more customers to buy your product. So these natural thoughts do not come to you. From there, if naturally it comes to you like this, that is marks of you have to rejoice. You have to rejoice in these good thoughts coming into you. And then gradually, say the people who are neutral, Neutral, usually there's competition with the neutral. Same, your child and the other person's child, right? This is a problem. One day they say, I have many of my relatives, they all became mothers, and then they're all with me and they're talking. They start to talk, they talk, eventually go after these small children, particularly the son. And everybody's talking about their son, one's own son, and nobody's listening to the other. All talk about my son, my son, my son. Everybody, my son, my son. Nobody's listening to each other, right? So so this is your natural reaction. Whereas from this person, if you become somebody who, drops your talk and listen to somebody else's, they're concerned about his or her child. If you become one like this is your growth. Otherwise, there's competition. Even though you are two sisters, but if your son and the other son, your sister's son is doing better, then you feel a little unhappy. If you don't have a son, right, then the sister's son, very good. But if you have a son, he's doing worse, and your sister's son is doing worse, a little unhappy. This is what it is. This is our natural thinking. So now with the difficult people, if the child is doing so good, then there's so much jealousy there, unhappiness there, and you will try to demean in any ways. So this is a natural thinking. So from this, if it so happens that there's a change happening, in the first place, to look things very objectively, even the difficult person has also good qualities. Sometimes we simply just rule out in a mind. You simply just evade in your mind the good qualities of the person. Even the good qualities, you say but. Right? Somebody says, oh, he's very good in Dharma knowledge, he has good knowledge. But, yes, that's true, but. But means to nullify that. So this is our thinking. If you're able to, at least from this very biased thinking, if you are able to see things objectively, oh, this person is nasty, but he's good in Dharma. That's true, that I agree. If this is your approach, transformation, this is a great success. And gradually, they say, even this person is nasty because he has a problem. If he's a bodhisattva, he'll never behave like this. Which means that his mind, he could not activate the bodhicitta. So he needs help. How I wish that he's happier, she's happier with the bodhicitta spirit. Right? Because with the bodhicitta person, very happy, will be respected by everybody. So the person is simply destroying the respect from others because of the selfishness. So you feel more empathetic and concerned rather than anger. So if these transformations take place, this is a great success. So what will make us go through these processes is only if we meditate on the two methods. Sevenfold Cause method and the method of realizing exchanges of others. Only with these two things then the progress will happen. Otherwise not. Okay, so there are various things, and then see that you are growing in your compassion. If that is happening, good. If not, then we have to do something to make it happen. Okay, we'll stop here. Deyata Om Gade Gade Paragade Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswatyata